Hello, beloved brethren and sisters. My name is Taiwo Ogunwale. I'm here today to present to you another program called Share It. And in this program, I will be going through the agenda. I'm sorry, my agenda is a little bit lengthy for this week, and I decided to make it lengthy because I'm so much passionate about the life of Joseph and his family. And also, if you look at my agenda, you'll be able to see that I begin with introduction. I asked who was Isaac, who was Rebecca, what are the names of the two sons of Isaac and Rebecca, what are the names of his children, who was Joseph, why was Joseph loved more than all his father's children. So these are some of the things that I will be talking to you. And briefly on the second agenda, I will be telling you about who was Potiphar, what was Joseph's character, and what does all these things have to do in this presentation. And the third agenda, I will be talking about what are the Pharaoh's dream and also what was Joseph's. Then I will end it with a conclusion, and I will also let you, my viewers, be aware of how I got my references. Now, begin with the introduction. I will be presenting to you a brief introduction of Abraham's son, Isaac, and his wife Rebecca. I will talk briefly on Jacob's children, and I will use the rest of this presentation to expatiate on Joseph's, known as the dreamer, his life, his characters, and how he excelled during his trial, and the acts of forgiveness of Joseph. Now begin with who was Isaac. As you must have learned, I have learned probably in Genesis chapter 15 verse 1 to 6, Isaac was the son of Abraham, that is, the son Abraham and Sarah born to him in his old age. He was a child of promise, and also was the heir of the promise. Now, who was Rebecca? Rebecca was the daughter of Bethuel, was the sister of Laban the Syrian, was the wife of Isaac, and he was the mother of Esau and Jacob. What are the names of the two sons of Isaac and Rebecca? As the scriptures elaborate on it, they are Isaac and Jacob. Now let's look at the children of Isaac, and which we know as Jacob, given to him because there are two twins, Jacob and Esau. Now I'm talking about the Jacob in this presentation. Now these are the list of what we know as the 12 tribes of Israel, and each of the child or son being given by each of the wives. As we know that Jacob got married to Leah, the first daughter of Laban. The second one is Rebecca, and he also got married to one of the maids. And each of these ones, as you can see in my presentation, the name of the one, the first one is Reuben, given by Leah. The second one was Simon. The third one was Levi, and the fourth one was Judah. And the maid of Leah also gave birth to Dan. He gave birth to Nephi, and Zipporah also gave birth to Gad, gave birth to Asher, and Leah also gave birth to Isaac. And again, Leah also gave birth to Zebulun. And Rachel, which is the second wife of Jacob, only have two children, which is Joseph, the firstborn, and second one being born by Rachel is Benjamin. So I will elaborate more on Joseph as I have made mention in my presentation. Now, who was Joseph? As I said earlier on, Joseph was the son of Rachel and was the second Jacob's wife. Why was Joseph loved more than all his father's children? The scripture helps us to understand that one was the son of his father's old age. So the love springs out from there. Why was Joseph hated by his brother? The scripture helps us to understand that this was done because his father loved him more than them, and also because he was also a dreamer, so because of that they hated him more. What did Joseph dream about? He had two dreams, and one of the first dreams is that he's binding sheaves in the field. He saw the binding sheaves in the field, and also his own sheaf arose and stood upright than his brethren's sheaves. And also the second dream was that the sun and the moon and the 11 stars they bowed down for him. How did Joseph disappear? Joseph disappeared because of the conspiracy of his brother against him. He was sold to the company of Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and Ishmael brought him into Egypt. Who was Potiphar? Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, was an officer of Pharaoh. He was the captain of the guard. He was an Egyptian. He was the one that brought Joseph from the hands of the Ishmaelites, the merchantmen. What was Joseph's character? The scripture helps us to understand that he was a godly person and well-favored. What does it mean to be a godly person? The tropical guide explains it as someone with many talents. What were Joseph's reasons for refusing Potiphar's wife? Well, the first basic reason was that because of his own great personal righteousness, and he was also taught logically that, okay, I can see where I'm coming from, and then I have everything that I needed. So that's why he made the statement that how then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? And also, Joseph was also a moral person and had a great love for God with all his heart. And lastly, he was a covenant-keeping person. What was Joseph punished? Was Joseph punished for refusing master's wife? Obviously, yes, he was. He was put in prison, a place where the king prisoners were burned. What was the main talent of Joseph? As we could see from the beginning why his brother hated him, because he dreamed and also he has the interpretations of dreams. How long was Joseph in prison? Joseph was in prison for 2 full years after he interpreted the dreams of the chief butler and chief baker. How old was Joseph when he was sold by his brothers? He was 17 years old. How old was Joseph when he became the vice regent to the Pharaoh? He was 30 years old. Who helped Joseph to get out of the prison? The chief butler and the chief baker. They were able to relate their own experience with Joseph when they were in the prison, and due to that they were able to tell King Pharaoh. What were the King Pharaoh's dreams? His first dream was that he stood upon the bank of the river and he saw 7 kind, fat-fleshed and well-favored. They came out of the river and they fed in the meal. And he also dreamed about another 7 other kind who were poor and they were very ill-favored, and the lean leached in the dead and a lean fleshed. Also in his dream, the lean and the ill-favored kind did eat up the first 7 of the fat king. And lastly, that the lean, that is, the lean and ill-favored, had eaten up the 7 kind and the fat flesh, and they were still able to favor such as it was in the beginning. And the second dream was just simply about that he saw the 7 ears that came up in the stock and full and good, And we also saw another 7 ears which are withered, they are thin, and they are blistered with the east wind. So in that dream, we also saw that the 10 ears before the 7 good ears. What was Joseph's interpretation of this dream? So simply Joseph was able to interpret this dream like he said that the 7 kind means 7 years, the 7 good ears also means 7 years, the 7 thin and ill-favored kind that came out of the after them was also means 7 years. The 7 empty ears blasted also with the east wind also means 7 years. Now, what was the meaning of the 7 years in each of Joseph's interpretation of Pharaoh's dream? That means that each of these 7 years means that there will be 7 years of great plenty of food throughout the land of Egypt. Also, there will be 7 years of famine in the land of Egypt. How did King Pharaoh reward Joseph for the interpretation of his dream? Joseph was rewarded by King Pharaoh by becoming a ruler in the land of Egypt. Pharaoh took out of the ring in his hand and put it in Joseph's hand. King Pharaoh also arranged him in his vestures of fine linen, that is, he wore a fine cloth. King Pharaoh also put a gold chain about his neck just to like inauguration, and also became a governor in the land of Egypt. What were the names of Joseph's sons? The first son's name Manasseh, which meaning God said, He hath made me forgetting my toil and my father's house. And the second son, Ephraim, which means that God has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. Why did Joseph weep? There are 2 possible reasons for this. The first reason was that when he saw his brother, his family, his members of his family, he felt that, he remembered the dream he had when he first told them before he was being sold. And secondly, he wept because he saw his brothers and those who were supposed to be his genuine family members accepting their gift while he was right there, how they were conspired against their brother. So those 2 reasons probably made him to weep. Why did Joseph's brother fail to recognize him? Probably as from learned from the student manual that because it has been about 22 years since Jacob was not able to see his son Joseph, and he spent 13 years in slavery when he was being sold, and he also spent 7 years for plenty when he became a governor and 2 years of famine. So altogether he has the 22 years we've not seen him. And also the brother also never thought that a teenager that they were sold was able to become a governor. What is the significance of Joseph's dream? From the student manual says that one was being promised that he will become a multiple of nations, which we understand, and secondly, his branches were run over, which simply means that he was able to inherit the land in the land of Canaan. And was Joseph forgotten? No, the Lord was with Joseph, and the Lord said unto him that he was a prosperous man. He found grace on his masters when he was with Potiphar, was able to make him to oversee all his master's house, and was also blessed. And also, the Lord also was with him when he was in the prison, when Potiphar threw him in the prison. So all this why the Lord has never forgotten him. Conclusion, we'll be able to say that Joseph has one attribute of the Savior. He forgave his brethren their trespasses by betraying him. He exhibited God's love toward his brethren and nourished his brethren's children, and also comforted his brethren and spoke kindly to them. So this makes me see that Joseph's journey was a very rough journey, but because the Lord was with him, he was able to be prosperous. And one basic thing that I have learned with him from Joseph's life is that he has a good heart and was able to forgive his brethren their sins. So these are the references used, reference 1 and reference 2 in this presentation. Thank you all for listening, and God bless you.